Hi everyone, just finished painting this group of figures. This completes my Heavy Brigade for the British Army in the Crimea, and they represent the 2nd Royal North British Dragoons, otherwise known as the Scots Greys, although in fact Scots Grey didn't become an official title until 1877, so whenever you see the charge of the Scots Greys represented at Waterloo, or during the charge of the Heavy Brigade in the Battle of Balaclava in the Crimea, technically speaking they weren't Scots Greys at that time, that was just their nickname. It only became official, as I say, in 1877. Yeah, unlike the other units in the Heavy Brigade, they hadn't adopted the Albert helmet. They'd retained the bear skin, so their appearance is not dissimilar to how they would have appeared at the Battle of Waterloo. The figures themselves, I really like the range, obviously, because I wouldn't have been painting it for so long if I didn't. And I do still have the gripe about the cavalry, the horse furniture. It's a real kind of mishmash of odd shapes and so on, so I've tried to paint it up as though it was a black sheepskin with the odd blanket roll and saddlebag and so on attached, but I found with all the cavalry in the range, I found it hard to interpret what the shapes were meant to represent, and it certainly doesn't reproduce the appearance that you see in plates and photographs and so on. And on top of that, as I understand it, the bearskin should have a sort of white, fairly tall white plume on the left-hand side, and these sculpts don't have that. But that doesn't worry me too much. And yeah, it was fun to paint up a kind of a unit of uniform coloured horses. That they are sort of slightly different. I've tried to give some of them sort of dappled kind of white and so on. Let's zoom in a little bit on some of them and try and give you an impression of how I painted the horses. Yeah, so I think you can see on that one's got a bit of a kind of dappling on it. Some of the manes are lighter and some greyer, just to give it a little bit of a little bit of variation. But all in all, nice unit put on the tabletop. And I'm going to move on now. Not only have I now finished the Heavy Brigade, but I've finished the British Army for the time being. I'm going to go on and paint up a unit of Chasseurs d'Afrique, a French unit, next, and then go on to the Russian forces proper. All I've got for the Russians painted up so far is quite a lot of artillery. So bit of a slow progress, but I'm getting there slowly. I was looking at the date of the first video I put up on this subject, and it was 3 years ago. It was about this time in 2017, so it's taken me 3 years, but I haven't been painting them constantly. I've always had something Crimean War wise on my tabletop, but I've kind of rotated them through with a lot of other projects, so yeah, I wouldn't like to say how long it's taken me, in actual time, but a long time it was a long time ago that I started painting them anyway. So thanks very much for watching. What I'll do now that I've got the British Army completed, I think, is an overall kind of army review, so that might take me a day or two to compile. But yeah, I'll do a video on the whole of the army as I've got it assembled so far. Thanks very much for watching everyone now. Bye.